Welcome to the Be Meaningful podcast, an unrehearsed, unscripted conversation about a real brand in real time, with Brian and Bōggie, the founders of Meaningful, an agency that helps brands find a meaningful place in the world.
In this episode, Brian and Bōggie connect with Meghann McNally, CMO of The Wrench Group, a company that provides home services through local contractors under an enterprise model. We get to the heart of it, literally, right out the gate, making Meghann the first guest to admit getting goosebumps.
I think the first question we love to ask our guests is really, it's a simple one, but it could be a complex one. And that question is, what's your dream?
And by dream, by dream, don't be a business propriety. Like really, what is, when you look at the Wrench Group, like what's the big dream?
The dream. So as CMO for Wrench, my dream, so business specific for Wrench, I want us to do two things. One is to be able to show that the trades, like being a tradesperson, is not one lower level than someone who might be in, going into an office every day. I want to champion that and celebrate that turning a wrench, knowing how to fix a toilet, right? Knowing how to wire electrical in a house is really valuable work. That's my dream. I think, when I started at Wrench, I rode with plumbers and electricians. I didn't come from the trades, right? I didn't. I was at a Fortune 500 company. Granted, it was agriculture, so manufacturing, very blue collar, but not the trades. And I was riding with a plumber, the best plumber at the company. And he said, what's the first thing people think about when they think about plumbers? Right? I don't know what comes to your guys' mind. What comes to your guys' mind when you think about a plumber?
Necessary.
Stable.
Necessary. Like
necessary.
Yeah. Like critical worker.
Right.
Right. And I think of this is kind of what you were talking about, what Steve Rowe did for Dirty Jobs. Really, really. Oh, he did. That is such a brilliant thing that he did with that program. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Right. Because it makes what they do noble. And if you've ever had to jackhammer the inside of a cement mixer, you're glad somebody does it because you don't want to.
It's true.
Right? Yeah.
And noble's such a good word for it. And,
right.
What's funny is he said people think about the guy hanging out under the sink with his pants kind of falling down. Right.
Well, there's
and
that.
That's a stereotype. Right. And now being in the trades, like it's so far from reality. And so back to the dream, I want people to say the trades could be a really meaningful career for me and my family, and it could provide and not only be rewarding, but provide for my family, for me. Like that's what we want, Wrench. The other piece, we want to create customer thrill for something that people think is like, no one has ever said in their life, I'm so glad that my basement is flooded because my water heater broke. I can't wait to call.
No, for sure. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so how do we create a situation where customers are, they feel good about the situation they're in? And to your point, Brian, Mike Rowe and what he did with Dirty Jobs, where he elevated these professions that so many people just turn their nose up to. And so I think that, we're seeing, from a business standpoint, financials love home services, right? The business and analysts, investors, they love home services, right? And so I want people who say, maybe college isn't for me. Maybe, I should look at something different. This could be really, it is noble and is meaningful.
Yeah. Well, and little did you know, just in the last 2 years with AI, you can see like now, the idea of a trade being kind of AI proof, at least for the time being, right? Like all of a sudden they're saying trade schools, specific work, manual work, really what's at jeopardy here is a lot of white collar jobs.
And that's really true. And so we look at that. So I've been at Wrench Group for 7 years as CMO. Okay. So I've been here a while and seen a lot of changes. You know, Wrench started, we were 4 locations. We're over 20 now. Mm-hmm. We are leaning into AI in a lot of different ways, you know, from visibility, right, to how can we be more visible to customers who are looking for our services. Absolutely. How do we lean into that for search? The other is with customer experience. So AI can play a really great role in customer experience. Where we see AI can help the trades is creating a better, more consistent experience for the customer when they call in. And that also looks like AI for our dispatchers, right? For service technicians. You know, maybe we can make the service technician his day better because we don't have him driving, you know, 60 miles across Metro Atlanta. We're able to use AI to better place where he goes. So now his drive time is much limited. That makes a happier technician. Well, right?
Supply chain, distribution. Yeah, treating it like that. Yeah,
but the turning of the wrench, the installation of an HVAC, I think, you know, maybe in 50 years, we have robots that we can then drop into a customer's home and they can install HVAC systems. Maybe we get there, but I think it's a far-fetched thing that can happen. So the trades are very much resistant to a lot of these things.
Well, and not to go back to the guy under the sink, but if we're honest, right, the weakest part of the trades is the business aspect. Usually, they really aren't as timely as they say they're going to be. The budget goes off the rails. They're like, you know, and I think that's always the anxiety around that, or trying to, like, when's the guy going to show up, or he isn't showing up, or he's not coming back, or he will come back, you know, that kind of stuff. And I think what you're providing is kind of that operational, kind of the de facto enterprise, you know, which really evoked to me. There was a couple of years when I dipped my toe into the CMO space from the agency side. It was a SaaS company in the outpatient rehab, right? Physical therapy, and they did the clinical and financial software for those companies, but they also offered the platform and services, right? And so what we did was thousands of individual practitioners, but over the country became a de facto enterprise, right? Which is kind of what you guys are doing, which is cool, you know, and especially if you are mindful of how human you made it in the very beginning with that first question, you know, which I think you become, that's where you immediately get scale in people's minds when you're an advocate for something that resonates with what's happening in the world. I mean, that's a big part of meaningful, right? That anthropological context, you know, and right now, wow, what a context do you have for being an advocate for trade work? You know, it's like
our locations, you know, and they always have done this, right? Mm-hmm. They've always held themselves to a higher standard. That's not always the case, right? Not all home services companies are created equal.
Right.
We always, right, in terms of down to the cleanliness of their van, how they present themselves when they come to the home, how we communicate. All of that really matters because, again, you're going into someone's home. And so then fast forward, how do you do it at scale so that you can commonize the expectation of that customer experience, right? Because what happens in Charlotte versus Atlanta versus Dallas versus Phoenix, you're going to get different trainers. You're going to, again, it's different demographics, it's different geography. One thing can remain the same is making the customers, feel really safe in that experience and that you have their best interests in mind, especially when you're charging them for work that they didn't want done, right? That happened to them.
So I have 2 pressing questions. Sure. This happens as you talk along. I'm like, oh, and that. Real quick question. Have you guys partnered with anybody yet, financial strategic partner, where so if somebody wants to do a payment system, they can do that and they take that risk, you don't?
Yes. So we have tiered financial support. So we've got, so Wells Fargo, we have a strong relationship with them. And then we also there's another company in space called ServiceNow. So we offer, so we've got partnerships with both of them across the country. And we do all of the processing for it, right? So we'll do, if someone wants to do financing, we do all of that for them. But we have different options depending on, different tiers of customers and kind of what their situation is. But that's been part of our, relationship.
Well, that just by itself, that's a huge incentive for a customer. Like if all of a sudden, because these things usually, they're you can't predict them. They just happen. All of a sudden a pipe breaks or something, right? And you're like, holy smokes. And, there is, again, anthropological context, right? We've got a silent financial crisis, household insolvency in this country where 63% of households, they can't come up with $500 cash if they have to. So that's the reality. And if you can come alongside them and go like, this has got to get done and we understand that and we have a way. That's like, wow, thank God. You're like, right, guardian angel. The other question was, because it's funny, you're talking in two directions. You're talking to consumers, but you're also talking to potential partners, right? Like people like tradesmen,
Correct.
That are is it a hurdle to get people on board when they know you're going to look at their van? And you've got a 32 item checklist. If you want to be in this group, you got to kind of like up level or keep a certain, there's a, is that kind of like, well, screw you. I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't need anyone to tell me. Or is it like, what gets them over the line? Or do you not even try? If people aren't on board, it's like, we're not going to waste time. You're not there yet.
Sure.
I'm just curious.
Really what for wrench group companies, one of the things that's different than many, our approach with members. So in our business, it's very seasonal, right? So for the most part, where wrench group companies are, we're in really hot, humid places. So our peak season is, April through August, right? Lots of HVAC installation, lots of air conditioning, et cetera. Yeah. So you kind of have this dip, right? That October, November, December, Jan, Feb, March, you have some dips, meaning you don't have as much, even though we have plumbing and electrical and heating. It's just, you have a pretty significant up in the summer. Many home services companies hire seasonal workers because they don't have enough volume to support a technician year round.
Right.
One of the pillars of every wrench group company has always been, even before they were part of wrench group, one of the things when we look at partnering with somebody, one of the things we look at is how do they approach membership? How do they approach the value of a customer year round? Do they offer membership programs? Meaning, hey, for $200 a year, you get a spring tune-up and a fall tune-up. You get 10% off any services, et cetera. So think a membership program. Every wrench group company has always leaned in to membership. We have hundreds of thousands of members across the country. And so what that means is we can keep technicians on year round because when the season declines, we then are doing fall tune-ups. We're doing spring tune-ups. We're in homes, right? Keeping technicians busy means that you're in a home. So we can keep ongoing employment. So a guy or a woman isn't, I know I'm going to have a job from May through August, but then I might be let go.
Right.
We can provide more consistent employment. So that's one, is wrench group companies have something to offer that is differentiated from many because we can offer year-round employment. So that is very attractive to then what we're asking them. Hey, you've got to make sure your van is clean. We do background and drug screens. You have to go through certain amounts of training, right? And so the things that we're asking them to do are worthwhile because we're able to offer consistent employment. The other thing, given the size and the volume and the customer experience that we have, these people can make really good money. You know, I mean, we talk about, you know, 6 figures without a 4-year. I mean, we've got plumbers, electricians, HVAC who are earning high 6 figures across the country, right? So they know that if they come to one of our companies versus another company. So say you've got a guy in Dallas, he's a technician and he's looking for a job. The reputation of our Dallas companies, for the most part, they want to come work for us versus a smaller company, or not even smaller, but someone who just has a different expectation because their job's not going to be consistent and they're not going to make as much. So the expectations that we put on them are worth it. Now, I will say tradespeople are in really high demand. So we do have situations where someone's going to follow the money. You know, maybe they get a plumber, maybe he goes to another place because they can offer him a signing bonus. They're desperate for plumbers, but then he goes over there and he realizes this is not the same. The business isn't as, you know, well run. The leadership isn't as focused on helping them grow, and they end up coming back.
Well, that was the situation with software engineers and code writers until like about a year and a half ago. Right.
Yeah.
So that can change. Right? Yeah, that can change.
And we're seeing that shift too. You know, I mean, we used to be desperate for technicians. Again, 2020, 2021, 2022. I mean, it was like we would have recruiters out there just looking for technicians, right? I mean, you would look during lunchtime, you'd look to see where, you know, technicians were hanging out on their lunch, right? And you would be looking because we needed technicians so badly. We're not in that level anymore because the business has changed. There's more headwinds in the business from that post-COVID time, but quality matters, right? So we do a lot of vetting to make sure we're getting really good quality. Because that also means customers come back. We now have, you know, they're like, I want Bob, right? They'll call in and say, I want Bob because, you know, Bob's my guy. And I know that Bob's going to, you know, treat me well. And I know he's going to give me a good recommendation, et cetera, right? And so that then creates, you know, repeat customers in a business that is not super repeat heavy.
Well, you know, you're talking about, you're trying to create business growth that's additive and not replacement, right? It's like you don't want to be in a constant funnel. Like so many businesses, so many corporations, at least, or brands have to, you know, they concentrate so hard on funnel and lead and acquisitions because their CRM sucks. And you're like, like build with what you have, build on what you have instead of replace what you have because you're just fixated on the front end.
Well, I was going to throw a grenade into the room because I want to talk about the big elephant in the room.
The website.
Right? Don't talk about the rest of your website.
I wasn't talking about that.
I bring that up because the first thing I thought when you were talking in the beginning about, you know, this idea of being an advocate for the trade, and these are people and their livelihood, and these are people that have needs, and this is really, and I'm like, why does your website feel so corporate? Why does it
feels really corporate?
Yeah, the language is all like kind of, you know, best in class, best practice kind of language, which feels very textbook corporate, but generic corporate, you know? And I'm like,
I agree.
And I'm like, man, but the way you talked in the beginning, I mean, it's in you, right?
Yeah.
We just need to like clone you onto the
Put it on the website. Well, I will say, I agree. The website it's the OG. That website was started in 2015 when Wrench started.
Okay.
Right. Well, we could talk about that.
It's painful. Yeah. I've been there.
That wasn't the curveball. But please finish your thoughts.
Our focus has been on revenue generating and location focus to make sure that our locations have what they need. And Wrench Group is just the background thing. We're not customer facing. That's the
it's the corporate side.
That's your corporate answer. the bottom line is where we were in 2016 as an organization, heavy acquisition, become part of Wrench. We're the best. We're the best. We're in a different phase. And our website, it has absolutely not kept up with where we are. Good news is that is a 2026 requirement, is we have got to demolish that thing and get it going. The first thing that we literally just did it was careers. So also, right, you've got technicians, and technicians, they go local. Even, right, a lot of times the technicians, it's like, we know about Wrench because we've got maybe better 401k and we've got benefits at scale, but like they work, right? They're putting on the Baker Brothers uniform, or they're putting on the Morris Jenkins uniform, right? So there's a lot of local culture and stuff there. Wrench Group is corporate, but what we're doing now is very different than what we were doing before. So we've made a big push. Our head of recruitment, she's leaned in really heavy around people. And she's now doing a lot of work related to getting out there respective to trades and the value of trades, et cetera. Our website hasn't kept up. You're not wrong. It needs love.
Well, yeah, only because the first encounter, the first brand experience I'm going to have, right? Unless I talk to you or meet somebody who works with you, is going to be the website. And so I didn't really get any of that. I saw a huge opportunity, but to just get it more in the language of whether it's the person turning the wrench or the person that needs the wrench turned in their house, it's like, man, this really got to get this out of the corporate suite and down to the ground here. But you did that right out of the gate. So okay.
Well, it was a very delightful surprise. It was a very delightful surprise to hear you speak about your dream. Like, oh, okay. I did not expect that at all.
You didn't expect it. You expected like double-digit revenue growth and 20% EBITDA.
There's a reason we expect that.
You're not wrong. I mean, we also want that.
Sure.
We also want double-digit revenue growth.
So do we.
But I mean, we have an opportunity to change what's happening. And this is something I've thought a lot about. And I promise, are we going to eventually get to your grenade question?
I know we will.
I don't know. Our space now is so heavy with acquisition. It's everywhere. And so I think there were like 800 private equity home services purchases in the last less than 2 years, right? I got the number wrong, but it's crazy. It's just everybody wants a piece of it. And I think there's a lot of competition, right? And so
you're saying the home purchases, the actual purchase of the home.
Companies like us buying, so think again, local contractor going into the home, selling, fixing HVACs and water heaters.
Right.
They're being purchased by private equity.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Oh, like, I mean, it is.
Oh, it's
because I know private equity is actually buying homes, and that's part of that.
Well, so that's
the supply demand problem. That's a whole nother thing. Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. Cause we see that our data shows that within a year of a new home purchase, that homeowner is going to invest significant dollars in fixing their systems like a water heater and HVAC. Okay. But one, you don't have home sales like you do, right? We're in a significant slowdown in home purchases. And with private equity buying homes, that changes how things are, because then they're renting them. Well, so then you have a landlord. So then you have a renter-landlord situation, which for us to do service on a home, we need to be speaking with the owner.
And that's about keeping costs under control, right? So
right. So that changes things quite a bit. The other side is that home services companies are so lucrative that everybody wants a piece of them. And so what you have is a very competitive space where, Joe's Plumbing and Bob's Plumbing and Ed's Plumbing all now have sold. And so either they aren't locally owned anymore, they're run by corporate, or they're not. And that's for us to we were one of the original ones to build more of a platform. Our model was to keep local autonomy, allow the location to do what they're really good at, right? They're great at getting into the homes. They're great operators. Like, let's keep that going and then look for areas of efficiency and scale on the other things that, so buying and creating direct mail, I don't need to have 28 people doing that. Sort of okay, maybe good, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's really competitive. Okay, what is your grenade?
The more I think about it, the buildup has made
$200 billion market, according to ChatGPT. Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
Way to go.
So my question is, from my perspective, looking from kind of like my generation, is the experience has been a little bit elevated with Uber, DoorDash, TaskRabbit. Like, how do we look at that? How do you look at that? What does that mean for this industry?
When I look at it, I think we have to be thinking, because again, and I said earlier, no one wants to call us, right? For so long, we took that and said, no one wants to call us, so let them call us, right? And then it's like they dial a phone number. You couldn't book online. You couldn't see schedule availability. Like, we thought that people were going to somehow want to interact with us differently than they do when they're buying a pair of shoes or getting a new lipstick, or right. We have to. And so what we've done location wise is we've got to think about the consumer. They want an experience with their water heater, just like they do when they're buying shoes. It's not any different. They want it now. They want to be able to see. They don't want to talk to anybody, right? For us, they have to have it same day, next day. Otherwise, there's 10 other people waiting in line that can do it same day, next day. So to the Uber and the TaskRabbit, et cetera, we now offer real-time booking online. You can book your appointment from your phone. You don't have to talk to a single person. You get your confirmation via text. You can communicate only via text. You can have a tech coming. You never have to talk to somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
Creating experiences like that is removing the friction, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's really important about what you're saying that I think people are coming around to it, but it's been a slow realization, is that consumers don't compartmentalize. Like, their life is holistic. And when an app makes things easy, that raises the bar for every app on your phone, right? It doesn't matter what category you're straddling. And I think you're kind of speaking to that, is that people have consumers have expectations based on what they know is possible. And when you lag behind what's possible, it just outs you. It just it's a stain on the customer experience.
Well, this morning, and granted, I'm in New York City. I'm in Manhattan, so there's context there. But I'm in an Uber to a meeting, and my friend, who happens to be very sick, is not feeling well, and I'm like, let me get you some soup, right? And so within seconds, I go on Uber on the app, and I get some soup delivered to her apartment, which is on the other side of town. Turns out her heating is out, and there's no heat in her building. She had to put in a ticket. They still haven't fixed it. It's been really cold, 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Within the same app, I got a space heater that got by another person that went into Target, picked it up, and got it delivered to her before I made it to my meeting.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And that's the experience. And so I feel like that is kind of the bar. And it's like anything under that is disappointing, unfortunately.
Yes, I agree. And that's one of the things is, how do we, because we can automate all of those pieces, does the technician then follow through on the promise? Right. So that's the other piece that we spend a lot of time on is, okay, If we're going to provide a real-time booking opportunity where I can go on today and I can get an appointment between 2 and 5 today or 8 and 10 tomorrow, if I can go on and do that and I do that, do I then get your technician is on the way with a picture that shows, oh, okay, I know who's coming to my home. Is it accurate? Do they show up on time? Right. And we can automate that. Right. So that's where our systems, we can get that really, really tight.
Well, you're aping Lyft and Uber, where I see the face of the driver and the name and so that's again,
so we can
you're meeting the elevated expectations. So you're staying current with that, which is great.
And if the guy's in traffic, it'll update it, right? Oh, I'm delayed. I'm in traffic, right? It provides that. Right.
Nice.
What we need is then the human element, so that when the guy knocks on the door, what you just experienced from booking to him showing up, what you get in the home is still that experience, right? So we do a lot of people training for in-home expectation. How do you have a hard conversation around price? How do you talk about other things that maybe you saw that weren't part of the appointment? Maybe they came in and the customer thought, maybe I just needed a tune-up, and it ends up that their system is 20 years old and it's going to break in 6 months. So we spend a lot of time on both pieces. Are we reducing friction for the customer so that they have the same experience that they would expect to order soup and a space heater for their friend? And also, does our technician fulfill that when they go in the home and do all the things that we need to do to, of course, right, to close a deal, but also that the customer walks away and goes, wow, that was easy and simple. Because then the other part is after the fact. We ask for reviews. Reviews matter a ton in our space. They matter now more than ever because of AI. So now ChatGPT, for example, is going to be pulling reviews. We focus a lot on Google reviews, but Yelp reviews, Reddit reviews, right? So now all of a sudden reviews are playing a role. Before people would search, oh, okay, right? You'd look at now, they're going to be influencing how LLMs determine who to serve up for the company, right? So before I'm paying per click, right? I'm bidding, right? My team is bidding all the time. I want
central place, at least in the digital world. Yeah.
Well, now all of a sudden, all this search, that's one piece, but now all of a sudden, am I on Reddit? Are the reviews good on Reddit? We haven't been paying attention to Reddit. Yelp forever was always a place where everybody just went to complain. We focus on Google reviews. Are they 5-star? What do we do? The 1-star in Yelp, because the guy's always complaining. He also complains about every restaurant he eats at. Okay, we're not worried about it. We have to be worried about it now.
That affects everything.
Right. So that's a big thing that we're paying attention to, is we got to make sure that we're leaning into this content, because LLMs are going to, and companies will get passed by.
As a person, as a business person, like, I want to bring value to people's lives, right? That's really what I want to do. And I know it sounds like kind of tree huggy altruistic, but it's not. It's not.
I don't think so.
It goes back to the very first thing Meghann said.
Which is, to me, it's like, you need to run out and create content video that starts with the first thing you said. Somebody's got to turn the wrench.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like a Paul. That's like a Paul Harvey kind of thing, you know, the ode to the farmers, you know, God made farmers, you know.
Got that ad. And his voiceover. Okay. Like Goosebumps. Okay. And also, why in the Super Bowl? Like, it made no sense really for Case and whatever Bram, I think they were, like, to do it. But think about, we're still talking about it today. Like, what the heck? And I was in the ag space when that came out. And as a marketer in the ag space, when that came out, what's the first thing that everybody was like, why are we not in the Super Bowl with a Paul Harvey ad, right? And I'm like, you can't, like, you couldn't replicate, like, that was gold.
That kind of stuff is like, people get so tactical in their work, and they think they think brand content is some elevated thing like a Zeppelin that floats up here and then all the real business is done in the ground. No, the up here informs all the tactical. And if it doesn't, you're fragmented. You know,
I worked with a copywriter. He was at an agency that I used back when I worked at Massey Ferguson. Rural lifestyle farm equipment.
Those are great old tractors, the old Masseys.
They are. And like rural lifestyle, right? It was just this like, you know, small farm, but this copywriter, and he was great, but and long time in the business copywriter. And he said, my goal when I create material is I want someone to feel like I'm leaning over the table and yanking them by the collar, that's what they want to hear. Like that, right? That's the kind of stuff I'm trying to write.
Yeah.
I can promise you that so far I have not seen a home services ad that makes me want to do that.
Well, don't wait because
people want to.
My experience is when you have an impulse or an intuition to do something, you are probably 18 months ahead of somebody else doing it if you're lucky.
That's
so if you sit on that, I mean, so
same. I'll just add to that. I mean, I did some work with a number of agencies when it came to the employer brand side, right? The CHRO vertical, right? And we looked at the employer brand strategy of like Apple, for example. So getting the internal motivated I would argue, is just as important as the external and the customer and the client. So.
Well, it is. Well, it's the famous Covey. We've written an article or two, and now we have these little books. We'll have to send you one. These little books, but that we're publishing. But
great.
Stephen Covey, the senior, I think, the Eighth Habit, right? He looked at the fact that most corporations really lack a clear vision, and so much of their workforce doesn't really know what the company stands for, and so their job is essentially to make a living, right? There's no mission, right? And so it's no surprise then during COVID, Gen Z and even millennials were like, I'm not going to come into the office anymore. Well, because there's no mission or vision to it. You're coming in for a paycheck, so I'm going to do it in pajamas and I'm going to see my kids at dinner.
Employee happiness is really important, right? What gets somebody up every morning, right? If it's just a paycheck and then you're having a bad day and you're like, man, I don't know. And you've driven all over the place and you're in your fifth home and someone's like, I don't really know. And you're like, yeah, it's okay. And you walk away. Right? That's really different than someone who's like, man, I feel really valued here. I feel celebrated. I know that my work is meaningful. I've have access to training. My schedule wasn't slammed because my president's trying to cram in one more job to maybe get one more thing done. Then you sit across the table and someone, and maybe you're going to spend a little bit more time. You're going to, then it's exponential if that's possible. Right. It's hard to do. It's really hard to do. And that kind of goes back to the really corporate, outdated website that we have. It's like, why would somebody want to come work here?
But that's the easiest thing to fix.
It is.
Operational stuff is harder, right?
The operational stuff is hard.
It's funny. We worked on a thing. There's an electric bike company in New York, and they kind of have these kind of cool looking bikes. They're super, super yellow, like chartreuse lime green color. So they're very visible. They're almost like advertising, because once you see one, you'll recognize it, right? And they were smart. They have a subscription service. So you get the bike, you get the maintenance, the support, the battery replacement. You even get a little carry pouch, and they'll set you up literally within an hour or two. You have a lot of, I know we want to get rid of them, but you have some immigrants, that come in and they want to work, and they want to work right away. Right. And so this is like, and you're talking about, helping economic development in the gig economy. Talk about like during COVID and now even, right, with what he was doing about delivery on the heater and the soup, you've got essential workers, right? They're going to get that thing to somebody in real time. Yeah. And so that's what these guys are doing that drive these bikes and deliver, right? It's a huge industry, right?
It's really cool.
The DoorDash and all that. And so
really
were, what they were and still are doing just these rinky-dink Facebook ads trying to like just, and we're like, you need to celebrate that these are essential workers, right? Mm-hmm. And we did headlines like risking life and limb to deliver somebody's Kung Pao chicken, right? We tried to get them to understand that these guys are some cross between Evel Knievel, Formula One, and Jackass. Like they're crazy. They're going through New York like nuts, you know? Mm-hmm. And trying to get them to see, if you go back to the 90s when I was in New York, there were bike messengers with very important pouches and envelopes that had to get somewhere by a certain time, and they had the chain links over themselves, and they're driving through traffic, up on curbs, across through lights. They really were nuts. And then they get in an elevator that everybody's going up with their coffee and their pressed clothes, and they get in all sweaty, smelling like a wet dog, you know. But they didn't apologize. They were delivering important goods, right? And I said, you've got to tap into that subculture to really, really elevate the people that are doing this and let them know they're part of something that has a legacy. It's a certain pedigree. Not everybody can do this. And then what you also end up doing is,
this is the cool part.
Well, we talked about the outdoor being pedestrian outdoor because that's where they exist, right? We don't want print ads or something, you know, even online was okay, but really about being present, because this is just New York market. So you can really saturate a market when you're just staying within a city. And we were saying to have that pedestrian outdoors so that people start to see, like you start to bring people into your story that are they're not gonna rent a bike, but they are the recipients of the people who rent the bike. Right. So they're one step out from your customers, but they are affected by your customers. And so you start to rally an entire population, kind of like being in a stadium where you have, 500,000 people rooting for your customers, right? And we try to get them to see how big that can be while being very tactical at the same time. And I think there's a great analogy there, you know, that goes back to the first thing you said about like just somebody's got to turn the wrench, man. That is, I hear Paul Harvey saying that, you know. But,
I do.
Yeah.
It's like maybe, in the back of my mind where I'm like, you know.
But maybe we get Mike Rowe. I think at the beginning I said Steve Rowe, which is funny. Steve Rowe.
All right. I was going to correct you, but I just met you. So.
No, he was a mechanical artist in my first job in advertising. So my brain just went back to another guy named Rowe. That doesn't.
You know what? Mike Rowe, actually, we have an annual like celebration event for our top technicians and salespeople. He spoke. It was in Nashville in March, and I got him there. And
that's great.
He spoke to our group, and you know, I mean, he's older than a lot of our technicians now, right? Our technicians are a younger group of people. But they all knew it, right? Everybody knows him. Oh, yeah. And right? Yeah. And he just talked about all the crazy stuff that he had done. And like, and people, again, I'm looking around and all these people in the room are like, right? Like that's my guy.
Yeah.
And look at him up there, right? And I mean, belly laughing, you know, it's just, but so, you know, I mean, there's, to the 18 months when you have an idea, I mean, there's something there that's missing in terms of, you know, really celebrating the trades in a meaningful way to a broader public, like your electric bike campaign or initiative, right? It's like, you see these guys. I mean, my daughter and I were in New York about a year ago, and, you know, they've got their hands in, right? They've got the plastic bag because it's freezing cold too. And so they are holding it, and they're in and out of traffic. And so the other thing that I was thinking about when you were talking is you have this outdoor campaign that shines a light on the value that these people are providing, all of a sudden, maybe you get less people honking at them. Maybe you get less people driving like lunatics when they're going, right?
Yeah.
Like even changing behavior in the city. That's, I don't know. I mean, I'm watching them. I'm going, oh my gosh, this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
somebody's got to do
really
it.
neat.
And somebody's got to do it. Right. And it is essential worker. Right.
It is.
It's very much that. And I think there's a lot of, power in that idea, and it resonates broadly. It resonates to your primary audience, but it resonates very broadly. And I think you really rally people to your narrative, your brand story. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that gets consumers who might never be involved in the trades, other than being a recipient, understanding what it's all about.
Yeah, but it primes them. It primes them for the day that somebody from Wrench Group says it's me or this, and they're like, "Well, I'm going to go with the ones I already like."
Right, and we want to be the choice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The question we like to ask is, what keeps you up at night?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask the other one.
Oh man. Business wise, right? Because there's a lot of new fear unlocked regularly.
Of course.
Business wise.
Of course.
The thing that keeps me up at night is how do we continue to remain relevant in such a competitive space? And what I mean by that is in every single one of my markets, it's harder. It is harder being a marketer because it's really expensive. To what we've talked about this last hour is brand and being impactful is sort of last. We've always been really consistent in having brand presence, right? Every single one of Wrench Group's companies, before they even became part of Wrench, they were out there. They had consistent awareness. They were in the community. They were in branding, but it's remaining relevant in now, a sea of sameness. You could throw a rock and hit 10 people who could do what we do on paper. We have to make our marketing work harder. And that worries me are we going to get tired? Are we pushing ourselves enough? Are we doing enough? Are we staying on top of all of it? Right? Because it's changing every day. And are we placing the right bets on some of these things that are really new? I talked about AI and search. That, like, very specifically, AI and search for our consumer and our companies, that's a big one, is we run the risk of not doing something, waiting for us to have a perfect plan, and then absolutely missing the opportunity, and we're out.
Yeah. What's that 18 months thing he said? That's exactly it.
Right.
Well, with
and so
AI
how do you
especially,
make perfection, not be the enemy of good, right? I mean, I know that's something people always say. I said that to my team today. I'm like, guys, when it comes to AI and content, we aren't going to be perfect, but it's changing so rapidly that we have to do something. Doing nothing isn't an option.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe what we try out of the gate sucks, but we have to do something, and we have to test it, not testing it because we're not sure. We're waiting for some perfect message or something. We will fail.
No, it's just iterate it. You keep iterating and you keep progressing forward. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, let's wrap this up since we've been talking for such a good long time.
Thank you guys so much. What a pleasure.
Likewise. Absolutely. This was a very delightful episode. So we really appreciate you making time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.